In this business, we glorify volume. We celebrate the plaques and the trophies and the billion-dollar pipelines, like some kind of holy grail. But what nobody talks about is the other side, the burnout, the addictions, the quiet self-destruction. And today's guest, she's underwritten over $1 billion in mortgages before she hit rock bottom. And she's brutally honest about what it cost her, how she crawled back, and the simple systems she uses now to protect her mindset and her sanity. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation I have with Alisha Manning. Hey, I'm Scott Peckford, founder of Bricks Mortgage, which is a brokerage we started just 4 years ago, already surpassed $4 billion in mortgages. You can check us out at whybricks.com. We help brokers scale. Before we jump into this episode with Alisha, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell is an amazing tool for mortgage brokers who want to create deals from their database. They send these amazing reports on a monthly basis. And the report is for the homeowner to look at their buying power, their home equity, and the open rates on these things are off the charts, 60 to 80%, which is great. Open is only one part of it, but then those open rates create conversations that create deals. Check them out at ownwell.ca/Scott and check out this conversation I had with Alisha. Hey, Alisha, welcome to the show.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm outstanding. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the mortgage biz.
Yeah, so I have been strictly mortgages for the last 12 years. I started my career at some major banks. My mom's a broker, my father's a broker. So it kind of runs in my blood, the mortgage business. So yeah, I've started there and then I kind of went in through the banks and then now started on the broker side in 2018.
Right. And so 2018 in brokering. And so and you've worked primarily, you've underwritten a lot of files. So let's talk about that, I guess. So there's a couple things I want to talk about. What have you learned underwriting so many files? And then you've got some new things you're doing now, which we'll get there. And then some learning that you've had along the way. So I kind of have an idea, but maybe talk to me about, you've underwritten about $1 billion in mortgages. So give me what are the things that you've learned from that experience?
I have learned quite a bit. This industry can take everything from you, but you can learn a lot through it. So dealing with lots of clients, like I've had so many opportunities throughout my career. I've worked with some of the biggest names in mortgage brokering, and because of those opportunities, I got to work on so many files, and the repetitiveness and working with so many clients in a fast-paced environment, you kind of have to learn very, very quickly to be able to handle that. So luckily enough, throughout that learning and that growth and working with some of the top brokers in the industry, that's really where I got my underwriting knowledge from, and I kind of applied that throughout my years.
Right. Yeah. You've worked for some like monster producers and handled, I know, a lot of files at once. So yes. How about this? I want to get tactical for a minute because what's something that when you're handling a lot of files, what's one or two things you do that help you stay organized or keep you from pulling your hair out?
Every client's story is different, but when it comes down to the application process, that they usually are the same. So when you have, salaried and hourly, when you have self-employed, having templates, I found, make my life a lot easier, saves me time, energy. So having those email templates and using applications like ATEX or certain applications like that, where you can just put in an abbreviation and it just generates that email, where you can just adjust that saves me a lot of time. Asking for every document up front is the key to being able to do multiple files, because it also shows that you know what you're doing. And by asking for all of those documents up front, you can provide multiple solutions instead of going back and forth.
It sounds like the things you had said that you recommend, having templates makes your life easier, would be the first thing. And then the second thing would be just making sure you get as much of the documents up front so that you can problem solve better. But I like how you framed it, that it's not about your benefit, it's about their benefit. If you get me all this stuff, I might be able to come up with more solutions for you. But if I don't have it, I'm not going to be. So I like that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So, and I think when you have that initial discovery call and you reframe it differently than asking for everything blood sample like the banks do.
Yeah, I need a DNA test and a paternity test. You got to pee in a cup. And sometimes it feels like, oh my God, how much stuff do they want from, but
Yeah, it's definitely the way you frame it, right? And then if I can get all of these documents up front, I can provide you multiple solutions. If you want a forward solution like a major bank, sure. If you want something that's going to save you interest, here's what I got. If you want to be able to do rental cash jamming or different types of things that the banks can't offer you, these are the things that I'm going to need. And when I have a full picture up front, it takes me very, very quickly based on the amount of files I've already done to be able to give those solutions very quickly. And then it shows that you know what you're doing.
And it adds the value. Okay, so
Yeah.
what's the dark side of this? So it's great that you've been able to work on so many files and get tons of underwriting knowledge, but what's the dark side to this whole hustle culture that? And I admittedly, I've been afflicted with that myself. But
Yeah.
walk me through some of what your experience has been.
You know, the biggest thing I've experienced in the last 5 years, especially, is major burnout. So the biggest thing here in an industry that hustle is glorified and awards are celebrated, burnout. It's just like I'm just busy, but you got like what that burnout can lead to is other things. And I've been there, working 12, 15-hour days, especially when COVID, I was getting rates of 0.99% variable. Okay. So yeah, when you have all those files coming into you at once, like I could barely eat, I could barely sleep because I was just locked in at my desk the whole time.
Right. So burnout is a big
Huge
challenge and that we don't talk about enough, I think. And I've had a few guests recently that have shared sort of some of that struggle side of just, and then, okay, when you get burnt out, if you don't mind me asking, how did you cope? What was an unhealthy coping mechanism and what are you doing now? And I kind of already know a little bit of the story. So I am leading you a bit, but like, what was an unhealthy coping mechanism? And then how did you resolve that?
So it's been almost a year. September 24th, 2024, I walked into a 12-step meeting. And the reason that my coping mechanism for the last 5 years has been compulsive gambling. And that is something that helped me escape from my reality of being that person that had all the answers, but maybe living a little bit of a double life. And, I used it as an escape. And, us mortgage brokers, we can work from everywhere on our phones and our computers. But my phone was strictly to escape for a long period of time, which was my very unhealthy coping mechanism. But, at the date of this recording, I'm 345 days clean of gambling, and that's been a life-changing experience.
So how does that
me.
feel? I want to go back to, so your first time walking in there, for anybody listening, and not everybody, we are all prone to having an unhealthy coping mechanism. It could just be different. Some people, it could be gambling. It could be insert whatever. But what was it like walking there for the first time? And did you feel I'm curious.
Doing $1 billion in underwriting in the last 5 years. And that's when my gambling addiction started. I walked into that meeting broke. I walked in broken. I lost my way in life and my career. I was so burnt out, but I knew by taking that first step and walking into that meeting, if I didn't give that meeting everything I got and been truthful on what I was suffering from, I might have not survived another day. That's how bad and deep I was into this that it literally broke me. It really did. But going into that meeting was literally saved my life. And it's at that point why I'm here and wanting to talk about it is because I just don't think it's talked about too much. When somebody is free of, alcohol or drugs for a year, everyone's like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Like, good for you. But when you say you haven't gambled in a year, it's not the same rate. And I think there's a stigma around that right now. And that's why I wanted to go on and talk about
it. Right. Well, congrats to you for taking that. You had to do it. At the end of the day, you had to get to that. And sometimes, rock bottom is a great place to build from. And you kind of get to this place, you're like, I don't know how to fix this. But being in a supportive group, whether it's a 12-step program, it's amazing. Like you said, you just show up honest, talking things out. You're either going to talk it out or act it out. And by having that, and you're like, you go, oh, okay, the world didn't end. Like I talked about this thing that I felt probably some shame about, and you're like, ugh. And then, so do you still go to that meeting, or like how many did you get? Like, what is that? What's going on now? Like in order to maintain this almost a year?
I go twice a week, every week. I'm very active in the community. I
You've always been
like,
an all in kind of person, though. So I'm glad to see you're going all in on your recovery, because you are on all in. You're just wired that way.
I
So I can
am,
help you in this case.
I'm an overachiever, like by trade, but like now I got to be an overachiever in recovery to stay on track with my life, and that's just where I've been. And I think the community has saved me. It really has. And so, like, if I can just talk about it and let people know it's okay to not be okay, and ask for help when needed, because I've always been that person that I've been that yes woman. I'm taking everything on. I'll always say, yes, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. And I think I had to let go and let other people give me the guidance, because sometimes you just can't do it all.
So when you say, just so I understand, you said gambling, and I think I want to, if it's okay, I want to get more specific. Like, so what was was it on your phone? Was it at a casino? Like, I'm curious, what was if you want to call it drug, your addiction of choice that was the part that kind of got its hooks in you?
So I'll talk about where I started in gambling. So I learned how to play 5 card stud poker before go fishing. So my gambling started even when I was young. I would go to bingo multiple times a week. Like I would go, all of that stuff. But when it really happened and it got really bad, and what my gambling type of choice was at the time, in 2020, when lockdown happened, that's when the gambling and the ads and everything, it's everywhere, right? So when you're locked in on your phone, all you can do is play on your phone and gamble. So my gambling of choice got to slots, and that's the worst part. Like, there's no winning in slots, right? But
it's highly dopamine addictive. Like they know how to, like, the buzz, the whole thing. I'm sure it's the same. So there's basically it's very much driving dopamine.
100%. And I think with the dopamine, it really, in gambling, it's the constant dopamine rush that craves those intense stuff. And when you're in mortgage brokering, we can tie this into mortgage brokering a little bit, right? So we got strict timelines. We've got clients expecting quick answers. And I'm always like, I want quick, 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 quick. So when it's slots, it's like quick, 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 quick. It's all the time. I'm just going like this, like this, like this. So, but like, if instead of chasing that big win, it's like chasing a lead. It's like chasing a new file, or it's chasing that to the end of funding. But it's just that constant in your back of your brain, just, I need more, I need more, I need more. And that's what I wanted. I liked the thrill. I liked, oh my God, I won this, or whatever it was. But it didn't matter how much I won. I won lots at a time. But it always didn't matter how much I won, because I always put it back in. And that was the issue. And it becomes a problem when you never take money out, because you always play it, right?
Right.
So that's
and the math thing. I mean, it's like anything. The math is designed to, the longer you stay, your chances of you're going to eventually lose. Like 100%. It's not they've done the math. It is a business. So
it's a big business.
What would you say to somebody who's struggling with either gambling or some other coping mechanism that they know is unhealthy, but they haven't taken a step towards it yet? What would your advice be?
I think admitting that you have a problem is the first step. And, accepting it's a little differently, right? But we can all admit it, that we do have things that help us cope. And I think talking to somebody, if you're not ready to step into a meeting, or maybe you're embarrassed or something like that, maybe talking to a therapist or talking to somebody you trust is going to be the first step. Because I held it in. I isolated myself for the last year. And it ruined me, right? So that's when I hit rock bottom, because I had nobody to talk to. I didn't have family around. I didn't have friends around. And that's when I stepped into a meeting, because I needed to.
How did you find it? So how did you find this? Again, I'm making this practical for listening, but okay, you realize this sucks. I got to make a change. But then how did you go locate this group or whatever?
So most of the groups are, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. So I searched, I Googled it. I searched Gamblers Anonymous and found a meeting near me. And when that was, and it was the same day that I Googled it, that, remarkably enough, there was a meeting locally to me at that night. So I stepped into that meeting at that time, but I just Googled it.
Right. So then you just said, I'm going to go, and you went. Yeah. And then what's been the other benefits you've got from again, this is a coping mechanism by going down this path. There must be other benefits outside of, this is a big one, but what other side benefits have you got?
So side effects of me admitting to gambling and having an issue was I needed to find other things that I enjoyed, because all I loved was gambling. That's all I loved. And so I started hiking, and I found great peace in that. And I think that helped me, especially at the beginning, because it's really hard for the first 90 days not to, get back on an app and start doing it, right? Especially when the stress of the work comes in. So I found hiking. I found my old love for the gym. And since quitting gambling, I'm officially down now 80 pounds as well.
Wow.
So
amazing.
which is huge for me. Right. And, when I started incorporating the healthy habits and, eating healthier, going hiking, going to the gym, reading more and going to meetings, my life started changing so dramatically. And my mindset is the biggest thing that's changed. Because I'm so grateful for everything and all the opportunities that have been coming my way, because I think what I think about gambling and coping and these unhealthy habits, think of it as a windshield, like your driver windshield. That windshield is so foggy. And when it's a foggy windshield, it's really hard to see and see what's going in front of you. When you take that away and the gambling's gone or the alcohol or whatever it's gone, and you wipe that windshield down, you can see the path you're supposed to go.
That's
and
good.
You can visualize what is in front of you and where you're going. And my windshield is so clear now. And I see the path that I'm supposed to be going on. And I feel like the person that I've always wanted to be now. And that's what drives me now. And it drives me to, you still have these thoughts. Like, they're never going to go away. And like in GA, they call it an illness, because it is. It's a mental thing. Because here's one thing that on my first meeting that has always stuck with me as well. Sometimes I wish I was a drug addict or an alcoholic, because people could see your suffering. You can see it in a drug addict or an alcoholic that they're suffering. With gambling, nobody's known this about me.
No.
I've held it in so silently because I was so ashamed. And
I didn't know about this. And I've known you for a long time, and I didn't know anything about this. So kudos to you for having the courage to speak up about this, as well as making these awesome changes. And so how do you stay on track? So you go to your 12-step program twice a week. Is there daily habits, or like, what are you doing? You got the hiking that you're doing, but like what's worked for you? And now, this is not prescriptive. Everybody's going to have their own recipe, but I do believe you've probably come up with some way to insert some healthy habits. What does that look like?
100%. So in mortgage brokering, we all have systems and processes that we do to stay on track with our daily activities and everything, right? So I call it the recovery operating system. So I have these daily non-negotiables that I do every day. And so it starts with daily gratitude. I'm a huge, huge preacher of being grateful for even whatever it is. So when I wake up in the morning, you usually pick up your phone, you go check your email and stuff. Before I even do anything, I get out of bed, I go in the mirror and I say 3 things I'm grateful for. And sometimes that's hard for people and to think, but maybe it's just, I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful for waking up in the morning. Something as small as that can make a huge change in your day. Drinking more water, moving my body is even if it's even sometimes you don't feel like it, 15-minute walk. Just shut it down, go for a walk, and biggest thing, time blocking. Dan Martell said it back the best with buy back your time. You gotta start time blocking. How you live your calendar is how you live your life. And I make sure that I am time blocking everything right now. But you know what? The honesty part. I feel like I've been living adult life for so long, and I have to be honest in everything I do. So I think where the honesty comes in is just like, yeah, I got to be honest with people. And, I've been honest with a few people about this, but I haven't done it on a big scale like this. But truth is where healing happens, right? So I think no filters, no more pretending, just being the real raw version of myself. And I think that's electric. And I think the energy is showing that. But those are my daily non negotiables I got to do. Yeah.
Right. I like that. And I'm not surprised given how you're wired that you came up with your own little process recovery operating system. And again, this could be different for other folks, but the idea is that you do have to have some, you want to replace, there's like they say, nature abhors a vacuum. And if you have this habit that you were going to, now it's like, I got to replace it with something that's that's going to be helpful and healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of this has led. So now what's changed in your career now? What are you doing different? Like, because you've really, I would say that a lot of your career has been working kind of behind the scenes, working for some very high profile, high producing brokers, crushing through files. What are you doing different now?
So I have officially came back to bricks.
And we're grateful that you're back. But what are you doing specifically now that's different too?
I'm a mortgage broker. I am my CEO of my own life and my own business now. I've always wanted this, but I've never had the opportunity, or I've been hiding, right? Because I was always dependent on a paycheck because of my addiction, right? I was always dependent on somebody giving me money so I can just gamble it away. Now, I've paid off all my debts. I've have money in the bank to start my business. But it's just so grateful. It's new, but it's been rolling, right? Like the deals are coming in. It's working really well.
Well, you certainly know how to put deals together. So like, you're not going to have any, that part you've got down. It's just grow the actual, the pipeline and, and really you're without being like, this is like a dad joke, but you're betting on yourself, which is that's a good bet to make.
I think the biggest gamble is to bet on yourself, right? And like, if I'm going to gamble on one thing and one thing only, it's going to be on myself now.
And something you can influence like the outcome on. I remember reading before about casinos, and at a casino, I don't know what it's like online, but the slot machines are about a 6% chance of winning. I don't want to play games that I have a 6% chance of winning, but if I bet on me, and if it's a 60% chance, that's still 10 times more than than something like that. And you learn and you can get better and you can get to 70% and 80%. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's awesome that you're doing this with your own mortgage career, your own production. And it's so exciting.
I'm so happy. But what I think is also what I want people to know is I think people overestimate what they can do in a day, but they underestimate what they can do in a year. Right. And I think, and I was always that person because I was doing so much a day.
Well, you also work like a crazy, to be fair, you did the work of two people in a day because you worked just a sick number of hours. And so you would just volume. Like I know a lot of your story. And so you'd work 16 hours, no problem. And most people would burn out from that. And you did, but so now it's like, okay, why don't you pace yourself? It's a marathon, not a sprint. You shouldn't have to do 16-hour days. You could do it a little bit more sane and maintain your other, healthy habits.
Yeah. And I think when you stack those habits together and small, achievable goals and making small achievable goals, and then you stack those daily, it compounds, right? And then things start happening and you start attracting and things keep going for you. And I just think, I've been so blessed throughout the last year of this. And, I just wanted people to know that, it's okay. But some people don't have the hardwire like I do, which is completely normal. But, when you start working really, really hard, you just got to focus on yourself as well. Because if you can't be the best version of yourself, how are you going to be the best version for your clients? How are you going to be the best version for your family? How are you going to be the best version for you? So I think that's where you really got to do the inner work. And then when you do the inner work, you really feel it and you can visualize it, things start happening.
Yeah. And here's the thing I know about you. You have no problem with hard work, like at all. So now it's like you're working towards your own business. And again, you've had great opportunities, work with some great people, and there's lots of great learning there. But now you're building your own thing, which is very exciting that you're going to be spending the time building your own mortgage business. I'm excited to see what you do in the next 12 months with your skill set and your newfound focus. And, back to the gratitude thing, I do that every day as well. I find it's very difficult to be in a negative headspace when you start to think of things you're grateful for. It's like it pushes it out. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. But like one of the things I always say is I tell people I'm lucky, but I don't believe in luck. And they go, what do you mean? I said, so what I basically, whenever something good happens, I say, I'm lucky. And so then whereas some people look for everything that bad that happens and they go, look out, this is all, happened again. Look at poor me. And I get a parking space that's close. I'm like, there you go. I'm lucky. And then I've convinced myself. And the reality is I just focus on the good things because there's lots you can focus on, good or bad. And one of them is going to keep me in a state that is going to be, I'm going to be more better at solving problems. I'm going to sleep better. I'm going to be healthier. And one of them is going to lead me down a negative path. There's lots of negative things happening in the world. If you choose to focus on them, you will make yourself nuts.
And so, I completely agree on that one. But the thing is too about luck and lucky. I hear it all the time and I see it on social media. And some people may look at, with social, they look at you and like, oh, she's so lucky that she's got all these things, blah, blah, blah. But they don't see what you did to get
there. Yeah.
So I think the difference is like, don't judge a book by its cover. And that's where social media comes in, right? And I think you got to look at people a little differently and like, what did they do to become this lucky, right? Because I think you make your own luck. And that's really, I do believe in that.
Yeah. And what were they willing to sacrifice to get to where they were? And are you prepared to make the same sacrifice? Because sometimes it's like you don't realize the amount of effort that went into it. We just see the final outcome and go, so I totally agree with you. I think it's amazing, Alisha, what you're doing. And so is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would be helpful for our audience to know?
So, I wanted to put a little bit of a stat because I just think, again, this is the stigma that is not talked about right now. In 2018, the estimated problem gambling rate in Ontario, because I'm an Ontario broker, is 1.1%. In 2024, that is now 11%. Okay.
Wow.
So there are people that I've chatted with, even in this industry, that know somebody that is struggling with gambling. So my biggest thing here is my reason for coming on here as well, not just to see your pretty face, but to talk about, my goal right now is to help any broker that thinks they're suffering. And I really wish, if you feel like you are suffering through something, please reach out to me if that's on social or anything like that, because I am here to talk anonymously with you. My purpose is to help clients not be ashamed of their journey as well, because I see it in bank statements. I see it on a day-to-day basis, and so do the lenders, right? So I think, my story, even the messy parts, is going to I want to try to help somebody here. And, there's no more ego for me because I think, my word's not going to, my top broker word's not going to hug me when I'm drowning, right? So I'm just here for clarity, integrity, and, straight up solutions. And I think that's how we build trust that lasts, and that's one day at a time.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Alisha, thanks for coming to chat with me. I really appreciate you. And we'll put links to your socials and stuff online.
Oh,
and again,
thank
you. If somebody's listening to this, whatever your addiction of choice, your coping mechanism is, like, the first step is just becoming aware of it, and then move towards maybe a 12-step program or something. And it can, like, literally, you seem like a new person to me. Like, and I mean, I thought you were a lovely human before when I didn't know, but now I'm like, you have a different energy and vibrance that I didn't see. And so I feel like it's like you have this weight on you that no one knew about, and you slowly shed it. And every day you just don't pick it up again. And then you're like, oh, wow. And then the potential and opportunity is amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks again for listening. And I hope you got some inspiration from that conversation. We didn't get into talking about mortgages a lot in this episode, but I do think this is an important conversation. And we all have our unhealthy coping mechanism when it comes to stress. And Alicia's was brutally honest with us, which I think was fantastic. And as I've said, I've known her for a long time, and I can see a complete renewed vibrance and energy in her. So it's very exciting to see what's possible when you shake that off and you shake off the shame of this thing that you're hiding. So if that's you, get the help you need, whatever that is. And, if it's a 12-step program or whatever, and absolutely you will be better for it. Your loved ones will be better for it, and your business will be better for it. And ultimately, we talk lots about, making money, but the purpose of the money, if you don't have people close to you and family, and what really is the point of it all? So hopefully you found that inspiring. Thanks again for listening. As I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the answer. This podcast is designed to provide some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.